Oh, never mind.
Okay, so this is the City of Marquette website. Does somebody else have another comment? I disagree with this.
Do you want to put the?
See, these people can see it really well because, okay, so this is the City of Marquette website. It looks really much better when you're at home. So you've got your home, you have your commission, you've got your agenda and minutes if you ever want to see what the agenda is coming up. The different departments, you can pay your bills here, and then you can search. What I like, the home page of the Marquette website, because it's got so much information on it. If you scroll down, you've got the recycling, the regular glass recycling, the guide to development, Lakeshore Boulevard. Everybody asks me about what's happening with Lakeshore Boulevard, right? You can check it out. Marijuana, recreational marijuana. How much money do we get every year? And what's happening with Crystal? And then, as you go down farther, you've got our calendar. So if you want to, that actually looks pretty good, doesn't it? If you want to, check on any of these, here's the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. There's a City Commission meeting coming up September 9th. You can click on that and you get more information. Over here, you've got all the PSAs that we've been doing lately. So the other thing I like about this is our important links. Whoops. And you can see that you've got pretty much everything that you want to look at. Commission meeting live stream if you really want to see us. Hey, you can buy a bicycle or an old truck that doesn't work though, city surplus auction. Yesterday, somebody asked me if it's legal to feed deer in the city of Marquette. I went, well, I know it's illegal at the Presque Isle Park, but I wasn't sure. So I went to city code ordinances. They'll take you to a site, you do a search, and there it is. It is illegal to feed wild animals in Marquette. Just so in case you want to know that.
Try to tell them that.
Yeah, I know. There's our commissioners.
Start arresting the deer.
Yeah.
Find the deer.
There's a little bit more down here farther, I think. Yep. I think you'd have to go the other place. But you can see all of our videos from previous meetings on YouTube. So if you ever wanted to miss a meeting, you can always, I'm sure it's, you don't have anything better to watch on TV. You can do that. The other thing that is up here is our update for our master plan. Cities are required to have master plans. Well, it was here. It was there earlier. But you can find the whole draft of the master plan. It's been almost 2 years. It takes forever. And the reason it's taken forever is that this community has been more engaged than any other community or consultants have had, which is wonderful. We had like 5,000 people provide input into our community master plan. It's taken a lot for them to get through all of that. I'm really liking how the master plan is coming up, but that's what sets a tone for everything we do for the next probably 10 years. So it's still an opportunity to comment on it if you want to take a look at it. Then there's an addendum. If you want to know anything about Marquette, look at the addendum. It's like hugely informative. So that's what I wanted to show you. So then the other thing is that because this is a group that's pretty well informed already, I don't need to just sit up here and talk. And I don't really know what you want to know. Some of this is going to be old stuff to you, so just please stop me and ask. You can ask me the tough questions, I might not know them. And I might say, can you see that where I can start the slideshow?
Oh, I think you got an arrow
What I
that's
do
down
here.
at the bottom, yeah.
There we go, and slideshow, start from the beginning, is that where it is? Oh, yep, here we go. I don't have a clicker though. That's not where I want to be.
I think you have another slideshow up.
No, I don't.
Oh,
It's just, this part of it. Oh, yeah, I want to go back. All right, why didn't I can't see my, so here we go, let's go this way. This will probably where it's there. How's that? Okay, so here we are. Just kind of real brief levels of government. Of course, we have our federal and our state. We have Marquette County, and then we have several townships. All states are separated into townships. We have 2 charter townships in Marquette. That's Marquette Township and Chocolate Township. There's more about that. We have no villages in Marquette County. And then we have 3 cities, Marquette, Negaunee, and Ishpeming. So, a little bit about what the difference is with those. Oh, first of all, here's the general law townships. When I said that there's a lot of townships, there are 22 municipalities in Marquette County. So how many of you are from Marquette City? Let me see. See, there's maybe half of you. How many of you are from one of the other cities, Ishpeming or Negaunee? So the rest of you are from one of these townships, right? Okay, so I'm always surprised at how much everybody, the townships, the other cities, thinks they should tell us commissioners what to do in Marquette. But that's okay, because we really, it's okay. So the townships, this is no news to anybody. Lower taxes, fewer services. So you have with this slide, I just gave you that slide, that those are the general law townships, and then the 2 charter townships. So when they charter, they have additional powers. This is the big reason for them to have a charter, and that is that it's protection from annexation by the city. So that means Marquette City is landlocked, because Chocolate's not going to give up anything, and neither is Marquette Charter. And then they have a supervisor. If we had villages, they stay within the township, okay? And but they still have a village government. Cities, higher taxes, more comprehensive services. Cities are the only ones that are removed from the townships. So cities have greater independence. And then they have their state required duties, plus they can do whatever other cities that they want. Hey, I didn't see you back there. Can't even see the slideshow?
It's okay, I can.
You can move over there. Okay. You might hear about something called home rule. That is, cities and villages have the right to do what they want because it's their home rule once they have a charter. So, the different forms of government, and I think that these are the basic ones, but there's always some city that I run into that changes. You have the city council manager form, which is really what Marquette has. We have a professional manager, that's Karen Kovacs, and she's hired for all the day-to-day operations. And then we have the council, or the city commission, responsible for policy, budgeting, and hiring of the manager, and actually hire the city attorney also. There's some that have the mayor-council plan, and if they have a strong mayor system, that's usually somebody who runs separate. Like in Marquette City, the city of Marquette does not vote on who is mayor. We vote on the commissioners, and we're nonpartisan. So, and it's the commissioners who decide every year who's going to be mayor, because we have a new commission every year. But when you have a strong mayor, you have someone that is out there in the community running as mayor. They usually have a full-time job as mayor. They are not part of the council, but they have veto powers over the council. And then we have, and this is what we have a weak mayor system. Our mayor is just part of the governing body. And so as mayor, I'm not any more important than any other commissioners. I just run the meetings and kind of do things like this. I do a lot of ribbon cuttings, those are fun. So here's the Marquette Commission. We have 7 members, 3-year terms. You can do 2 terms maximum. If you want to stay on the commission, you can leave for a couple years and then you can run again. So we have rotating terms, so that means that every year, at least 2, sometimes 3 commissioners are terming out or their term is ended, and so that's, like this fall, we have 2 open seats. We have 1 incumbent and we have somebody who is termed out. We take all of our guidance from the city charter. That is where all of our basic information is from, what tells us what we have to do and what we don't do. And then, of course, we have our master plan, which I just talked about. And then underneath the master plans, there's like the Parks and Rec plan, the Arts and Culture plan, there's the Resiliency plan, and we've got all these things that really kind of guide some of our decision making. So what are we supposed to be doing? We are in charge of the health and safety of the community. That's really a biggie. That's our fire, our police. Do we have good roads? Do we have good water? That kind of stuff. We also are in charge of the budget. That does not mean that we are budget nerds like our city manager. She's really wonderful with the budget. But we kind of approve the budget, and that budget we just came from an all-day budget meeting, going through the budget to make sure that we all know what's in there and what we might want to change. We hire the manager and attorney. Those are the only two people that we supervise. And our lines of communication go there. So if you come to me with a problem, I go to the city manager. I can't go to the department heads because that kind of interferes with her management. And then our biggest thing is to represent the citizens. So that's why you get to vote on us. And we take that very literally. We get lots of phone calls, we get a lot of emails. Feel free to do so because I'd like to hear from the community. And that's how we know what we should and shouldn't do. So people often ask me how I make decisions, and I certainly rely on the staff because they're the experts in their departments. I sometimes do my own research. I listen to the citizens, and that's a big thing. So, that's kind of like that three-legged stool. And as much as I try, and to be very objective and to take out the information from those three different places, you still have 7 commissioners with their set of values. And, I'd like to say that doesn't come into play, but it does, because that's why you have to be very careful about who you vote for. That's why we have 411, right? So here's a little note. Meet your commissioners. There's me. Jessica Hamby is the mayor pro tem right now. Her term ends at 11/26. Cody Mayer was our previous mayor, last year's mayor. His term ends in November of 26. Jenna Smith is terming out this year. So Jenna was our mayor for 3 years, and she was our mayor during COVID. Okay. Jeremy Ottaway, his term is ending, but he is running for the seat again this November. Michael Larson, his term ends November 25th. Paul Schlegel, his term ends 11/26. Paul served on the commission previously. Did you count 7, Ron?
I did.
Okay, good. She's quite good. All right, so look at these. I was appointed and then elected. Jessica Hanley was elected. Cody Mayer was elected. Jenna Smith was appointed, then elected. Jeremy Ottaway was appointed. Michael Larson appointed. Paul Schlegel elected. What does that tell you? That some of us originally got on the commission not by the vote of the people. Yeah. When a seat is vacated, we do have the option of running an election, but an election costs about $30,000. So that's why for the past several times that a seat has been vacated, we've chosen to appoint someone. So that appointment process goes where they apply, they give a little speech, a little background on what they're doing, and then we vote them in.
So these
Yes.
other people pick,
Yes,
the commission picks these people.
yes.
So
So it's the commissioners that, so when you say appointed,
yeah,
the other 6 commissioners appointed Michael Larson
right,
and Jeremy Ottaway.
right. And they interviewed and gave a speech, and
Yeah.
had they run before and not run? Or
Jeremy has run several times before. Michael has not run, but he has served on the planning commission for a lot of years. I think there was another committee he served on. So some of that comes into play about how much you know the city and things like that. There's a question back there.
I had the same question. Who did the appointing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the commissioners that appoint. You all know my story? Some of you know my story. I first ran in 2019, and it was probably the most complicated, stressful year that you could choose to run as a commissioner. Some of you are nodding your heads. There were a lot of us. And I made it through the primary. There were 4 of us, so now there are 2 seats open, so there's now 4. I think there was 11 before the primary. And there were two people that just really, really were good at campaigning. They knew what they were doing. Me, I didn't. People would ask me, who's your campaign manager? I go, I should have one. So I lost. I lost by 20 votes. And then one of the commissioners, one of those people that was voted in, didn't last for too many months. And so he resigned. And then, of course, I applied to be on the commission. And this was during COVID, so all the meetings were on Zoom. Yeah. So they would vote. I think, again, now there was like 14 of us that applied to be on the commission. But after a couple of votes, it came down to 2 people. Me, and I won't tell you who the other person is, but I like him. He would be a good commissioner. So vote after vote after vote on Zoom, it would be a tie. It'd be a tie, it'd be a tie, it'd be a tie. How many votes do you think?
84.
80 votes. Close. It was 80 votes. 80 votes. And I know. It was a 4-hour meeting. So the other person and I were texting each other going, can't we just flip a coin? And we'd be texting to the commissioners, go, can't we just flip a coin? And after 80 votes, they finally said, yes, we'll flip a coin. Because they know it was just going to be another, going to be 100 votes and it'd be still 3-3. So they flipped a coin, and at that point I was thinking it'd be really nice to lose. But I got up. And I'm really grateful because it really has been a lot of fun. I really like knowing as much as I do about the city. So that's my story. I tell that story at our conventions. People don't believe me. So, want to talk about the budget?
Or why are we fixing all the damn streets at the same time?
Because it's that time of year. Yeah, we fix this. Well, you know why? Because sometimes we wait to make sure that we can put it in our budget, and then say, yeah, let's do it, and then boom. Why can't we fix the damn streets? Well, here's some of the issues that we run to. Do you know that less than 50% of the land in Marquette City is taxable?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm glad that you all know that. We have the university, the prison, we have our parks, we have all the nonprofits you can think of, we have the veterans facility, so all of those places do not pay taxes. There's some other people that don't pay taxes. Loss of We Energy, that was like 14% of our budget, that was $1.6 million. We're still kind of trying to recover from that. Do you all know what, I know some of you know about Brownfield. Do you all know about Brownfield? A lot of our money, people visit and they say, wow, you must have a lot of money in your city, these big, beautiful buildings. And no, that money is tied up in Brownfield. I'll talk about that a little later. Inflation, that's nothing new. We went to visit the service center. Some of you who are in the Citizens Academy right now will get to do that. Ask them about the plow blades. So there's these iron plow blades that are like this big that go on the bottom of the plows. How long do you think they last?
2 months.
6 to 8 hours.
16 hours?
And then we switch them out.
Okay.
No, they're just worn out. So they showed us these plow blades and how much they just, well, they used to be $100 each and now they're like $300 each. I mean, that's just one example of the inflation that we deal with.
Recycled or reused?
I'm sure they recycle the iron, but yeah.
They made in China.
No, here, aren't we like full of iron ore here? I hope not. State revenue sharing has decreased. This is not something that we talk a lot about, but we don't have a lot of say with our state revenue sharing. It's gone way down and it's starting to come up a little bit, but we don't get a huge amount that way. We have limited options for revenue. People ask me, why can't we have a tourist tax, right? How many of you thought about that? Why can't we tax the Airbnbs, right? We can't. Legally, we only have very limited ways we can raise money, and one is to raise our taxes, but that's only up to a certain maximum, and we are at the maximum now. So we can't add more millage. The other way that we are allowed to bring in different money, a different source is an income tax, which we have talked about and talked about and talked about, but are still hesitant to do that, and our budget is finally starting to turn around, and I think that we're going to make it without doing that, but it's still an option. An income tax would say, if you live in the city and work in the city, we would tax you at 1%. If you live outside the city and work in the city, it would be 0.5%. But if you think about how Marquette City is such a center for everything, especially the jobs, and how many people live outside of the city, but use our resources. So it would make sense. It would have to be voted on by the people. So we just don't think that there's an appetite for it right now, but it's a potential investment.
So we can't put a tax like I've seen in other places. When you rent a hotel room, they've got da-da-da-da, and then they have some kind of a local or city or county or state, or there's some extra tax.
There's a couple places, and it depends. Usually if you're talking like that, it's outside of Michigan, but there are a couple places in Michigan that are allowed to do it. And I don't really know the rules. It's something like your city has to be more than 50,000. I don't know what they are.
Oh, well, we can't.
We cannot. Our only other option that we have right now is an income tax. Subsidized housing is in PILT, payment in lieu of taxes. So there are some organizations that we have, some, I guess we call them organizations, that do not pay property tax, but instead pay us a payment in lieu of taxes. The biggest one is the Board of Light and Power. And they pay a percentage of their income, which is good. The others that are PILTs are the low-income housing, like the Villages and Pine Ridge and Snowberry and the Orphanage, and I'm trying to think all of those others. They pay a very small percentage of what they take in, and all of those together only bring, with their PILTs, only bring in like somewhere between 35 and 40,000 a year. So it's not much. The Black Rocks Crossing subsidized housing that is going up on Ridge Street, we negotiated a 6% PILT. The others pay a 4% PILT. Yes.
If something, say like Snowberry,
Yes.
goes from being subsidized housing to full rent.
Apartments. Yeah. If they could be
Then we
right.
can get some taxes?
Perhaps. Yeah. Yeah. It depends. But a lot of those subsidized housing places pay a PILT.
Sarah?
Yeah.
So I was wondering too then about all that property that they're developing at the old hospital, since, is that going to be considered property of Northern?
It is right now belongs to the Northern's Foundation, but when they purchased that, they made a commitment to turn it around as soon as they can to the tax rolls. So as soon as that gets sold to the developer, it will have regular taxes. And then as they develop, they'll probably ask for brownfields. So yeah, that's a good question, because yeah, that property. Now the current hospital, Duke Life Point, is a for-profit. So they are wrapped up in the brownfield right now. But, you know, again, the Duke Life Point, that's another, if they were paying taxes today, that'd be another 14% of our tax base.
So if they're in Brownfield, is that for a certain period of time?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm hoping to get to that, depends on how much time I have, so yes. I do it.
Pay taxes?
What?
If they're in Brownfield?
They pay taxes, but it gets captured into the brownfield. We have the brownfield expert.
David will explain it later.
Yeah, you will. Well, he'll listen to my explanation and then he'll correct me. The DDA, Downtown Development Authority, pays a TIF, captures a TIF. Brownfield captures a TIF, tax increment financing, that's what TIF stands for. So if the DDA, let's say Savings Bank building a new vault, I think they sold that for, I don't know, I can't remember, it was like 2.5 million. That's probably not a great example. So the tax increment financing is you take your base, how much money they are paying in taxes, and then anything improved over that increase in taxes will go to the brownfield, or in this case, it goes to the DDA. So if you think about the DDA and the footprint of the DDA, I don't know how much you know about the footprint of the DDA. It's all of Washington Street, goes over to Baraga Street, goes down to 7th Street, goes all down to the waterfront up to, I don't know why they did this, half of the Hampton Inn. The birdhouses are in the DDA, and then all of 3rd Street is in the DDA. So any improvement in the taxable value, goes to the DDA for their operations. Now, we have a really wonderful DDA, and they do a lot of services that the city would otherwise pay for. But that, again, because that TIF goes to the DDA and not to the general budget for the city, that puts a strain on those of us who are paying the taxes in the city. Okay? So keep that in mind, that if something is in the DDA, their initial value from 1996, I believe, to today, all of that increase in value, those taxes go to the DDA. So that's why we can't fix the damn road.
What about like ours?
What?
This is kind of like the roads. It's the sidewalks in the wintertime, the Downtown Development Authority. And if you have any kind of mobility issue, I mean, even if you don't have mobility issues, you can't climb over the snowbanks, you can't get the sidewalks. I was told that the merchants are responsible for shoveling their sidewalk. So who cleans out by the curb? It's great to have a shoveled sidewalk.
The DDA shovels the sidewalks.
Okay.
The DDA clears the sidewalks in all of the Downtown Development Authority place. I know that they tried to clear, well, it was by the parking meters, but now they've tried to clear certain spaces. But yeah, that actually, I could complain to the DDA just like you could.
Right, but nobody's responsible for
The
that.
DDA is responsible for clearing the
But
sidewalks.
not the curbs, which is where the problem is.
You mean like the
snowbanks.
the snowbanks over the curb, yeah. They have little areas that you can go through, but I agree, I know,
But
I
people
go.
park there.
Yeah. But I'm right, I agree.
People with handicaps, that doesn't help them at all.
So there's nobody responsible for that.
I assume the DDA has to take care of that, but we don't know. I know it's not the city, it's the DDA, yes.
Maybe clarification about the structure, the oversight of DDA. You know, like the city council is voted on, you know, and so it is responsible to the voters in a sense. Who's the DDA?
The DDA is a committee of the city, but they have their own authority. Downtown Development Authority, so they can act, it's kind of like the library, and also acts as like kind of an authority. They make their own decisions. Versus an advisory committee, like the Parks and Rec is an advisory committee.
I guess I'm kind of getting at, if you're a Marquette resident who doesn't like something, you know, the DDA is a corporate public thing. Ideally, as a citizen, you would exert some influence over it somehow. What's the pathway for that?
If it's a DDA, you can say something to me, but who do I go to? I have to go to our city manager,
Okay.
who actually sits on the DDA board, so that would work, or you could go directly to the DDA.
Okay.
There was a question over here, and they'll come back to me. Yes?
What about the dark stores?
Oh, that's a whole nother thing that our
What's your
attorney paid
question?
attention to.
The dark
Our
stores.
question was, what about the dark stores? There are businesses that do apply for that, and then our city attorney works with them and works to settle. Yeah, there's another, I guess I didn't put that on my list, but yeah, we do have dark store issues
Yeah, there's,
that are really dark.
that aren't paying taxes.
That are paying the full amount of taxes, they
Right.
negotiate something less than. that is homeowners. All right, so, oh, Marie, I'm sorry.
Just the last question. Who gets on the DDA? I mean, they're not responsible to the citizens because we don't vote them.
The businesses. Well, residents can, if they live in the DDA area, and we do have some residents that are on the DDA board.
And how does that happen?
They apply to be on the board.
Oh, okay.
And the city commission votes to put them on the board. So we do have a say on who goes onto the board of the DDA.
But it's mostly the businesses.
Yeah, but we have, and we encourage the citizens, and you can live in the DDA area. Yeah. And there's a lot of residents in the DDA area,
Oh, yeah.
if you think about it. Okay. Are we done with that? The 2025 budget, and I just said a couple weeks ago, we spent all day looking at the budget. So 8.3 million in our fund balance, which is kind of like our savings account, right? If we have any money left over, it goes in there. I remember years ago, it used to be 14 million. We are required to keep a certain number of days operating money in our fund balance, as you would expect. I think it's 60 days, and if you're doing 90 days, you're doing much better. But right now, we have 8.3 million, and one of the things this commission and our city manager and our finance person are really working hard on is not taking money out of that fund balance. We have for years, you've done capital projects and bonded out, which means borrow money to pay for it, and then when we go to pay it up, we've taken money out of the fund balance. So our budget has to be balanced. So if our expenses are greater than our income, then we take money out of the fund balance. I am so happy that the 2025 year, we are not projecting to take any money out of the fund balance. I mean, that's a big deal. It's the first time I've been on the commission when we haven't. Sometimes it's been a couple million. Last year, I don't know what we're going to end up, because the budget isn't totally done yet until the 30th of September. But I think if anything, it'll be maybe 200,000 or 300,000, which is very small compared to what we have in previous years. If you can say, many years ago, it was like 14 million, but we spent that down. We don't want to go any lower because it affects our bond rating. So we're working to pay off our debt. We've done a lot of good things with bonding and capital improvements, but we are not doing any more again this year. You won't see Division Street torn up again this year. Because we're really trying to hold on to things and not affect, like we're really protecting our money and doing for the future financial. So anticipated revenue for the upcoming year, 20,262,440. Anticipated expenses, there we go, without taking money out of the fund balance. Now, we're only doing that because, I'm trying to think, Karen's first year, she joined us, I think, in June, and she used to work with cities that were in financial trouble. She was sent in to fix them. So she knows finances really well. She came here thinking, oh, Marquette's such a great city, and I bet that their finances are great. And then our first budget year, she said, we just did the budget and we're 8 million short. And she panicked, we all panicked. So it's been a lot of cutting, finding new efficiencies and all that kind of stuff. And she's done a phenomenal job, as have our department heads and our staff. I mean, part of that is educate the staff so they get this, so they understand. And there was first couple of years there unions didn't even take up pay increase, so a lot of the staff didn't have pay increase just so they could get past that. So nothing from the fund balance. I'm really thrilled about that. And that's just our general budget. In addition, we have enterprise funds and the water, and so there's everything all total is something like 97 million. How about that? That's the general. Okay. Brownfield. Okay, Dave's here, but does anybody else know a lot about brownfield? Oh, yay! 2 people. All right. So you hear the term brownfield, right? Yeah, people complain to me about brownfield. All those buildings are all brownfield. So remember I said TIF is tax income and financing. So if you have a piece of property That's the brown, and this is what they're paying in taxes right now. If it enters the brownfield, this is a very simple version of this, right? Enters the brownfield, and everything that increased in value, the increase in taxable value gets captured, put back into the brownfield fund to reimburse the developer for certain things that are eligible. Like could be contaminated or obsolete, or, help me out, Dave. Yeah, so there are certain things that are eligible for brownfield, and so when they capture that taxes, so if we have a city property that gets sold to a developer, or it's not a city property, if we have a private property that gets sold to a developer, this is what we're capturing, the city would be capturing in taxes at that point. But now it's approved for brownfield, so that increase in value, they improve the property, it's increased in taxable value, goes into the brownfield fund for a certain number of years. So the project begins, project completed, they capture in, and once that year, because you said it's for a specific number of years, ends, then we get the revenue. Okay? So hopefully in my lifetime, we will see some of that revenue come. But that's, see, this tax can be captured for up to 30 years. So we're in those 30-year periods. Yes.
Is it typically 30 years, or does it depend on the
For
project?
some reason, we have, we are probably a city in Michigan that have done more with brownfield than other cities. We're kind of over brownfielded. But look what we've done. I mean, things look great. What was your question? Does it always? Yeah. And most of ours are 30 years. Some of them are a little less. It depends on how they can work those things. Yes.
How do property sites get declared as eligible for brownfield or not eligible for brownfield?
They apply and they have to meet certain criteria. As I said, is it a contaminated site? Look at what we've done down at their waterfront. That's all contaminated. Or it's obsolete. Why can't I think of the other ones, David? Come on.
It can be obsolete, it can have historical significance.
Well, you know what? I think I have that somewhere in these slides. It might be past my question slide at the end, but I have it. So, so just hold on to that thought. So here's some of the city, these are the city brownfield, right now our current brownfields. So Nestle Down is completed. We're getting our taxes. They were not a big one though, so you can see the taxable city value. That's what they're currently paying. DLP is Duke Life Point, our new hospital. It won't be completed until 2037. Their brownfield plan will not be completed until 2037. And then we will get the 1.4 million. Remember what I said the We Energies was? 1.6 million, so we're going to get, but we have to wait until 2037. And these aren't really exact, they're projections because taxes go up and down. Liberty Way is where the Staybridge Suites are, the bank, and UPHP. That'll be completed in 2039, and you look at what you get, 220,000. UP State Bank was again another smaller one. That'll be completed in 2032. Founders Landing, all of that Founders Landing is one big brownfield. It'll be completed in 2036. So, and then Cliffsdale, this is Cliffsdale, but really it's BioLife. Okay? Yeah, because you was like, what? Yeah, it's bio, isn't it? Yeah, it's BioLife. So that'll be completed in 2030. Now, cool, look at that. Only 6 more years. But then we've got, what we've got coming up is the former MGA hospital redevelopment.
Is that brown?
Because you can't be a nonprofit and get brownfield. I guess I hadn't said that. So they're for profit. They are contaminated. This is Dave's. Yeah, this is before my time. This was Dave's stuff. But they qualified. They qualified. So the other thing that happens with brownfield is they have to have some community benefit. So the community benefit for Duke Life Point is our new service center, our roundabouts, some fixing the roads. You'll see Liberty Way worked on the bike path behind them, so they always have to have some community benefit too. Founders Landing are new piers. Okay, that's how. The old hospital, they will be redoing Fair Avenue. Ooh, really? That's why we haven't touched Fair Avenue, not Fair Avenue, College Avenue, that's why we haven't touched College Avenue. Yes, Jean?
Sally, when you said the taxes are captured into the brownfield, that means a separate fund?
Yes,
Brownfield has its own budget?
yes.
Oh,
Yeah, and then they reimburse the developers for what they had to do to take care of the contamination or whatever. And it's not like they can do, they can only be reimbursed for eligible expenses.
from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the hospital redevelopment, that would be contamination? I had some?
What, the old hospital?
Yeah.
It's obsolete.
I guess I always thought brownfield, part of brownfield was contamination. right?
It is, that's one of the eligible criteria.
Okay, and so that's area on college is considered,
Well, there's probably some contamination there too, if you think about the chemicals that are in the hospital, but I'm sure it was mostly obsolete.
Yeah, it's,
So we got our expert right here. This is the guy that ran the Brownfield Committee for years.
so, zooming quickly, so if you think of the old hospital is a nightmare for the city, if you just look at it, because it's abandoned, and nobody will take it over because it can't be used for anything else. And believe me, we tried to find it to be used for something else. The demolition of the hospital, just the demolition, is $20 million. So if you ask a developer to come in and redevelop the hospital, it won't happen, because no one will put up $20 million. So what the brownfield does is it says, we can actually pay for the demolition in future property taxes for the increased value. So what you're doing is you're basically borrowing against the future increased taxes that the developer is going to pay. So the developer pays for the, in this case, it's the foundation for MU, pays for the $20 million, but they get that paid back from the increased value. And if you didn't do it, there would be no redevelopment.
We would still have a
You would just
really
have
bad.
loss. So that's, to get you over there.
I'm gonna move on because I'm paying attention to the.
I'll do a different talk another day.
Yeah. So there's some other brownfields that are within the DDA district. Okay? 231 West Patisserie, they'll be finished in 2035. The Customs House will be finished in 2046. Ordok Brewing Company, 2044. Although that's really, I mean, there's been so much more stuff that's happened with that. And we have the vault, that's been approved, but that's mostly for the parking structure. You know, and the estimated, you know, that's not up to date. But again, that increase in value, once those brownfields are done, will be going to the DDA.
And so like I just want to just quickly.
Yes, you go ahead.
In several of the biggest projects, the brownfield plan will be beat by more than a decade. Hospital will be paid off more than 10 years ahead of that. So will Founders Landing, because the value has gone up so much more than projected, it will all be paid off smoothly. So these are worst case.
These are worst case, yes. And you know, look at this, the vault and the Ordok have been given some really nice grants. So that'll decrease the years that it will be in there. So one of the things we did this past year as a commission, because you heard about the DDA and how much money they get with the increase in taxes, we are negotiating a revenue share with the DDA. That's, oh, so I'm gonna go past my questions. There was something here, eligible activities, here we go. Non-environmental eligible activities, you can see that there's environmental, non-environmental. The big thing this year, the state decided that all housing can go into brownfield. And according to the state, one house is eligible for brownfield. So if Sandy wants to build a new house, she could ask for brownfield. The commission will say no. Just so you know. So that's leaving it up to the local governments to decide, but housing, as long as it's a housing, it can be brownfield, which is You have to think about that, and we've had 2 work sessions on it, and it's very complicated. It's a new thing, it's a nice tool that the state gave us because everybody's worried about housing. Yeah, so it's a nice tool that they gave us, but we have to figure out where is our tolerance level, because when you put in new housing and it's wrapped up in brownfield, you saw just what happens with money that goes towards the tip. Yes?
What about all that development at the intersection of Division and 553?
Division and 553, that is not a brownfield, that is a Veridia. We did put some utilities in, but he didn't ask for a brownfield, and so it's like better to have those houses there and to have them paying taxes right away. Yeah. This is where I wanted to get to, it's just that you will see that coming. We have developers already asking for brownfield for housing, and it's going to be, some commissioners think it's an easy decision. I think it's a really difficult decision to make.
How do you go about asking?
How do you go about asking? Do you have a? There's an application process, and then there's a consultant down near Traverse City who helps people put together their package. It costs about, I don't know, $35,000, $40,000 just to go through that process. So it's not like Sandy's going to spend $35,000 to go through the process to ask for then the city commission to say, no, you can't have that. Probably it'll go to the Brownfield Committee first, and they'll say no, so it doesn't have to be the commission decision. Yes.
If it's brownfielded because of environmental toxicity, who oversees and makes sure that the property owner mitigates?
Well, you've got all kinds of your environmental agencies that have to do part of that too. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm paying attention to the time, it's 8:06, I don't know.
You can go to 8:15.
If you have more questions, otherwise we can wrap it up. This is really what I wanted to see. Watch your city commission, watch your brownfield committee, watch what's happening in terms of housing and brownfield, yes.
Is there like a cap for the brownfield committee? Is there kind of like a cap for how much they
No.
give out per year? It's just
No, it's what their building costs will be. And what their brownfield eligible expenses are. So we might see a housing development or like an apartment building that says, I'll put in 50 units and I will have half of them brownfielded. So it'll be 50%, but that's actually, it's kind of what you would think of as rent control. So one of the developers that has started asking is going to put in some apartments, and what the brownfield does is reduce the rent for those people. So it becomes, because rent is really high. So they get reimbursed for that, the difference in the rent that they charge and the difference and the market value for however many years, okay? There's also, this new brownfield plan allows housing development, so single-family housing. So the brownfield tax capture will allow them to sell the house for less than they would, instead of $400,000, for maybe $300,000 or $250,000. But the people that buy that house still pays their increase in taxes, but it goes into the brownfield money for it, however many years that is. It's a complicated system. This is one of the reasons I like being on the commission, because we study a lot. And this is the kind of stuff that we have to know what we're doing. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I started with all the things you already knew. Thank you.
Thank you all. We need to be out of here by 8:30. Otherwise, speak to each other.
Learn something new is all I want.